How's it going, bro? What's your name?
My name's Jason.
Cool, man. Where are you from originally?
From here in Portland.
Cool. What do you think about Portland?
Well, I mean, I love Portland. I wouldn't really want to live anywhere else as my home base, but it's definitely not what it used to be. What if? You know?
What do you think about Ted Wheeler?
I think he's a piece of shit, basically. You know, I mean, he made a lot of promises, you know, but he's only following through on the ones that appease the rich people. Not a huge surprise, but, you know, but one always hopes, you know, that, you know, when someone makes a lot of talk about, like, how they're going to help people, that maybe they'll fall through on some of it. But I don't see it happening. All I see is that people are there's sweeps again, and people are getting their camping gear stolen from them, and, you know, by the police, and their lives endangered in some cases. Now that it's warmer, maybe not as much, but, you know, they've been doing this shit since before it started getting warm. And, yeah, ever since Ted Wheeler came out and fucking said that how they're gonna, you know, clean up the homeless thing, but they're gonna build, I mean, even then, even his plan was bullshit, because he said he's gonna build, like, 6 big old, like, basically ghettos, you know, where the homeless people can stay, and they'll be forced to stay there, and they'll make it illegal to be anywhere else. So just sleeping, you know, they can't, and you know, he has to say that because the courts have already ruled that if, you know, you can't make it illegal to sleep, because the human body can't not sleep. It happens involuntarily eventually. So to make it illegal to sleep you know, anywhere, if you know, you have to give an option. So he's making it out like they're going to build these places, yet they've never done any, he never secured any agreements about funding. You know, like, there's no budget for it. He never even talked to any of these places where they're hoping to, like, put these things. You know, he's never talked to a single neighbor or resident or around there or business owners to see if he can get, you know, if that'll even happen. He didn't do anything. It was just talk. It was a way to make it so that people wouldn't feel bad. All the people who hate the homeless, but yet they have, you know, white liberal guilt. You know, they want to fucking feel good about themselves, so they don't want to feel like they're behind that their mayor is just going targeting homeless people and fucking not giving them any place to live without giving them any alternative or helping them get off the street, right? So as long as he keeps talking about they're going to build these fucking ghettos where all homeless people will have to sleep, you know, like 6 big ghettos, you know, with a whole bunch of people living there together, completely oblivious to the fact that when you put, you know, a couple hundred homeless people together, the amount of fucking theft and crime and bad shit that goes on there, because a certain amount of those people, like like a certain sample of any group of people, are bad people. You know, I mean, you're gonna have fucking, you know, bad shit happen. There's a lot of people, either that or even the ones that aren't necessarily bad people, they got addictions and shit. The only way they know how to feed is to steal from folks and shit like that. And apparently that never occurred to Ted Wheeler. Either that or it did, and he just knows that they're never going to get built anyway. And it's just the idea of giving people this idea that there'll be a place for the homeless people to go, that they're clearing off the streets. Because you're not going to get a bunch of rich liberals to agree to clearing off the homeless that they secretly don't like. You know, they really, you know, just pretend to be compassionate to, because it's what's expected of you if you're a liberal. And don't get me wrong, I'm as left as as hard left as you can get. I'm an anarchist, so, you know, it's not about, but this fake white liberal guilt bullshit, you know, people that fucking don't want to put their money where their mouth is, you know, just fucking irritates me.
What do you think the biggest problem is downtown?
The biggest problem, I would say the biggest one right now is the fact that while they did a good thing to decriminalize drugs, right? But they didn't follow through, just like they're not following through at the other end of the thing of the, you know, stop and fuel camping and all the sidewalks and shit, right? They didn't follow through at the other end, which is to give, if you make drugs legal and give no one any place to do them, and you have thousands of people on the street, where are they going to do their drugs? On the street. That's where they fucking live. That's their house. So if you don't give them an alternative, that's what's going to happen, obviously. So it's stupid, you know. No one's willing to spend 23 cents a day in extra taxes, you know, in order to fucking make it so, like, dope addicts can go use drugs somewhere but the street, but yet they'll complain every day about it. You know, it makes no sense. You know, the same businesses that complain about everyone shooting dope in front of their businesses aren't willing to pay a couple dollars a year in extra taxes in order to give them another place to do the drugs. You got to either house them or make safe places to use, at the very least, like they do in most other civilized countries. You know, give people a place to use where they have Narcan and they have a hotline to medical, to EMS, you know, if they need it and shit like that. You know, and it's supervised. You know, there's absolutely, that's the other part that was pitched with the decriminalization, but they never follow through on the back end of shit. You know, they just do the decriminalization, and now it'll be just like San Francisco pretty soon. There'll be a backlash, and they'll not only recriminalize but make harsher penalties for the shit. And we'll go back to treating people for the for a healthcare problem, for a fucking something that all medical professionals agree is a disease, and we'll go back to treating that with prison. That's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, but it's happening already in San Francisco, one of the most liberal cities in the country. They did the same thing. They decriminalized. Everyone's using it in the streets because, you know, I mean, where else are they going to fucking do it? And it's actually a good thing. What people don't realize is, you know, before they were like okay with it, you know, oh yeah, at least then people won't have to hide when they use, and we won't have nearly as many people dying from overdoses. That's why so many people are getting Narcan every fucking day. You know, it's not because there's more people. So, I mean, there are more people overdosing because of fentanyl and because of its availability and cheapness and shit. But for the most part, the biggest part of the problem is simply that, you know, people are seeing the overdoses. They're not happening behind closed doors. You know, and before it could be swept under the rug. You know, people OD, they die, there's no one to treat them, no Narcan, whatever. They die, and it's just another dead junkie, and nobody reads about it in the paper. Nobody knows about it. You know, now it's just happening in public. That's the only difference. Like, I don't see, like, as far as all I know a lot of people down here, and I've only seen a slight uptick in the actual amount of people overdosing than what it was when people were on heroin. You know, honestly, the percentage of users that are overdosing is slightly more, but roughly the same. It's just happening in public now. You know, that's but no one would have a clue about that, you know, because they just know what they see on the evening news, and, you know, they only stick to what's going to scare people on the evening news.
What do you think about President Joe Biden?
Well, I don't know. Like, I'm reserving judgment, and to see, honestly, I can tell you one thing, though. I'm certainly not voting for him if he compromises with this fucking bullshit that's going on right now with the GOP. The fucking debt ceiling thing, you know, I mean, if he agrees to let them, basically what they're saying is they want to throw homeless people off of fucking food stamps and Medicaid. Because the fact is, when you're homeless, you're not going to be able to fucking do, you know, work requirements and shit like that. It's fucking next to impossible to even get a job, let alone hold one when you live on the streets. You know, so what they're talking about, you know, to translate the GOP's line, it's not we need people to just do, you know, the bare minimum and try to get up off the couch. No, they're talking about taking these things away from people who don't have a couch. The people whose couch is the sidewalk. You know, that's the people they're talking about kicking off, because everyone else will just go and get in, you know, go and fucking do some little, you know, whatever job search thing, because they can set their alarm, get up and jump on the bus and go fucking do it, you know, the minimal shit that they have to do to say they're looking for work. But all the homeless people that can't do that because of their situation, they're the ones who are going to be kicked off of Medicaid. They're going to be kicked off of fucking food stamps, and the whole purpose of that is they know that, I mean, they fucking, I don't even know if that old man realizes it, but they got him in a bind. He can't get elected if all the poorest people in the country are so pissed at him they'd never vote for him in a million years. They know what they're doing. They're sabotaging the programs that he can run on. You know, basically, and you know, he's gonna give. Maybe he's just gonna give into it. We'll see. Like I said, I'm kind of reserving judgment, but I'm pessimistic as far as the outcome. I think what's going to happen is homeless people are, I think everything's going to get worse because they're going to take away Medicaid, for example, which means the thousands of people, many of them homeless here in Portland, are on methadone, won't have it anymore. And so what do you think they're going to do to replace that? You have to use about 5 or 6 times as much heroin as your average addict uses to make up for the lack of methadone. Fentanyl is going to be the same thing. You got to use a lot more than people are using now. If they suddenly take methadone away, to equal that huge dose of methadone they've been taking from being on fentanyl, which might be upward of 200 milligrams, they're going to have to do a lot of dope, which means a lot of crime. And that's thousands and thousands of people. Each clinic has thousands of people, and a large percentage of them are homeless. I mean, it's going to be, everything that people are pissed off about is going to get worse if he compromises on that. Medicaid is the biggest one. Food stamps, you know, okay, yeah, but it's still, you shouldn't take away food benefits from people who need them the most. But the whole thing, it's a nightmare. They're basically wanting to sacrifice, and I have a feeling that he's going to sacrifice all the people who are the most in need of those programs.
What do you think about this upcoming election?
You mean the presidential election? Well, fucking, I don't know. On one hand, I mean, this country's already in decline, so someone like Trump can only make the eventual happen faster, which might be a good thing. Because, I mean, you got to tear down an old house before you can build a new one. And it seems that it's tearing itself down, basically. The people that are supposed to keep it running are tearing it down, but I don't know that it really benefits us to, so I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I hate that motherfucker, right? I mean, I hate him. Like, I've never hated anyone in my life.
Paul Trump?
Yeah, I fucking hate that motherfucker, right? But at the same time, maybe he's what this country needs, in that it needs to be destroyed, and he'll rush it along that path more than anyone. Because, I mean, look at the world we live in right here. This is a failed state. It's a failing state. If we saw all these same things happening, if we looked at any other nation in Europe or anywhere in the world, right, especially if it was brown people, and they were living in shanty towns, every major city had tent cities and shanty towns everywhere, and fucking everyone using drugs in the street, and fucking, and all this other shit that we see, they would be calling it a failed state. And the polarization, no nation's ever reached that level of polarization without it ending in civil war, ever in the history of mankind. Never. I'd challenge you to point one out.
What do you think about the trans movement, man? Like trans in sports, women's sports and stuff?
I don't really have much of an opinion on that, because I don't give a fuck about sports. So it's just games. So let people play the games they want. Like, I mean, to me, I don't know. I guess some people take that shit really seriously. I look at sports like like our society is very much going the way of Western Rome. Very much so. Like, what happened there is that, poverty increased. They eliminated the middle class. Therefore, the motivation was gone. The poor couldn't think they were going to eventually be middle class, and the middle class couldn't think they're going to be rich. You eliminate the middle class and have that division in wealth, and what ends up happening ultimately is the state collapses. Because that's the thing, for a capitalist nation to survive, you have to have that lie, that myth, that everyone who's poor, who works hard enough, can become middle class, and all those middle class people who work hard enough can become rich. Without that myth, then people aren't going to keep playing the game. And so we're doing the exact same thing, the elimination of the middle class, polarization becoming extreme, and the government's been giving us the same thing they did in Rome. They gave them the games to keep them distracted, keep the poor distracted from the fact that they're, fucking surviving on bread lines and shit like that. At the end of the day, that's basically all they depend on. They depend on distractions. They depend on shit like that. It's the same thing as Western Rome. And right now we got the people in charge of the country sitting there fucking playing their fiddle like Nero, which I know is apocryphal and all that, but it still illustrates the point. I know he didn't really play his fiddle while Rome burned. It's like a myth, but all the same, that's what they're doing here.
What do you think about religion, man?
Well, organized religions more often than not been used as a tool of the state to oppress people. However, I have my own views. Like I'm a Muslim, actually, but I believe that my beliefs basically can coincide with that, at least. There's obviously many facets and different beliefs within that tradition, including that, that man doesn't have a right to make a law over another man. A man doesn't have a right to restrict you, tell you what you can and can't do. Only God does. And so unless it's something from, unless it comes from God, no man has the right to elevate themselves above another man and make a law or a rule for you. And in fact, that's why I'm an anarchist, is the fact that, within a true anarchistic society, people who had a certain religious faith or a certain way of living or whatever, and they wanted to live that way, they'd be free to do so, as long as no one was compelled. As long as they were doing it by their own free will and had the right to leave or not be there, then people can live in whatever tradition they want. There's no either or A and B. You can actually have both. People could go off and do their own thing and live in some weird little fucking religious community and shit if they want. It seems kind of culty, but like, I guess, whatever floats their boat. Me, like, for me, my spiritual beliefs are more personal. It's not something I usually even talk about with most people very much. It's a personal belief system, not something that I think that I need to impart upon the world, or something where I think I need to structure my environment according to, necessarily.
What do you think about global warming?
I think it's fucking hot out here. And it's just getting hotter, man. I think we're gonna burn ourselves up, and then the world would be a better place. I actually have a song that I'm just finishing producing over at my brother-in-law and sister have a home studio and shit, and I work on music with them and stuff. And Yeah, I just finished a song actually. It's basically about, that we're just gonna, we'll burn ourselves. We're gonna burn ourselves up. We'll all die, and then the world will recover once we're gone, and we stop, raising the temperature of the planet. I think it's egotistical to think that we'll destroy the Earth. Even if we fucking nuked the shit out of it, it'd come back eventually, as long as we're not here. So for the sake of every other species on Earth, I kind of hope we do just finish ourselves off. And then all the other life here can flourish. Maybe something else will become intelligent eventually and have a chance to do better than we did.
What do you think about the aliens, man? That's been going around the TV, man. Seeing.
Well, I mean, fucking someone builds them ships, and the military sure can't do it. We don't even make machines that can handle those kind of G-forces. Anyone like who's looked at them tapes, and I mean, it's been talked about, like the sudden maneuvers and shit made. Like, we don't even have machines that could hold up to those G-forces, let alone any biological organism that we know or understand. So it's got to be something. They're there. There's no denying that. Even the Pentagon says so. So if it's there and it's not people, it's something.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.